There's another professional service provider that I worked with who loved the strategic referral relationship approach. It's how he built his entire practice. And he got very, very granular. He was a thinker in our think, feel, know decision-making framework. He was a thinker. He tracked all of the activity he did through the 5 steps we're going through. And what he realized was that it took him, on average, 64 cups of coffee, 64 meetings for each strategic referral channel that he created. And that's an important expectation for you to set, not to be daunted or overwhelmed by it, but to understand that this is a process that I'm encouraging you to go through. For many lawyers, building referral relationships means stepping outside of your comfort zone, stepping out into the SUZ, the slightly uncomfortable zone, or even the oh no zone, because instead of being called upon for your legal expertise, the things you've been trained in, the things you've been tested in, the things you have proven you know, you have to do things that are ambiguous, are complex, are building relationships, asking questions, managing the energy. Growth is what happens when you step outside the comfort zone. Feel that discomfort and know that that is about progress and personal development, not about something being scary and wrong for you. And lean into that understanding that this is going to take a lot of steps, a lot of cups of coffee. If I can just build some consistency and some rhythm, then that's how I get all of the ideal clients that I want, more control over my capacity, the extra earning potential for me and my firm. I've set up enough. Let's actually start going through the 5 steps of the strategic referral channel process. Step number 1 is around connecting with those individuals. It's around asking yourself the question in that initial conversation, do we match? Is my business and this person's business a match? Are we working with the same or similar clients? Now, there's 2 things you really need to have done before you can go and ask yourself that question. You need to understand, what is your ideal client? Who is your ideal client? What do they look like? Are you more of a general family law firm where you are looking to support mums and dads who are going through fairly simple, straightforward separations? Are you specialized in complex parenting matters, in DV, in complex asset pools, business owners? Who are the clients that you want to be working with? And that might change over the course of your 20, 30, 40-year legal career, right now. And then what is your or your firm's brand promise? What is it that makes you distinctive? How do you want to be described when you're not in the room? When you're educating these referral channels, how do you want them to describe you? And you want to have those in advance, because as we go into step 1, you're going to be sharing those with this potential referrer, and you're going to be pushing to see if it's a match. Too often in that neutral corners process, we get vague about who we're looking for. If I went out to the market and said, I'm looking for any business owner or any law firm business owner even, I might get some referrals that are not a great match. Como Legal Coaching is not built to go and work with 1,000-person law firms. It's not who our product is built for. Similarly, if you deal with complex business clients, your fees are likely to reflect that. If you're vague talking to referral sources and they start sending you vanilla mums and dads who are still renting, limited asset pool, your fees are not going to be a match. That's going to be a waste of your time. It's going to be a waste of your client's time. And that referrer is going to say, well, what's the point? I'm sending you these clients and you keep not even being able to help them. Clear is kind. The more precise you are with your ideal client, the more you can have a conversation with those referrers about whether they are actually working with your ideal client. And if you've been through some of our programs when we do that with our individuals or as a firm, you'll know we talk about the bread and butter clients who are maybe not perfectly ideal, but fill the cup, fill your capacity in the early days of growing your firm. Sharing that as well is helpful. But don't think being vague is useful in this. You don't want to walk away from that first meeting feeling like maybe they can help you, kind of. You want to be a yes or a no. Yes, they have our ideal clients. Yes, they match in other ways. Commercially, they match. There's no point if you're a premium service firm having a referral relationship with the cheapest conveyancer, the cheapest accountant in your town. Their clients are not going to want to pay your fees, and vice versa. Do you like this person enough to want to work with them? Culturally, they are going to attract clients and prospects who are similar to them. And that might be great. They might be a beautiful human being that for whatever reason you just think, oh, they're a dickhead, or it's just not quite a fit. As you'll see as we go through these 5 steps, you are going to want to spend ongoing time in relationship with each of your strategic referral partners. If at the outset you don't feel that you want to spend time with this person, it's not going to work. Their referrals are not going to work. It's a no, it's not a match. And as I shared before, you want to explain this process to them. R&D, rip off and duplicate, add your logos, add your fonts, make this look like you, your firm. But sharing this process with them in that first meeting, that first coffee. Our firm goes through this process to build strategic referral relationships. You may have seen something similar, maybe you haven't. Are you interested in investing time in building our relationship so that we can know it's mutually beneficial or we don't waste each other's time? And if they say no to that, just like they might say no, they don't have your ideal clients, or no, it's not a commercial fit. If they say no to any of these questions, feel good wrapping up the conversation. Maybe you walk out 15 minutes early, maybe you just have generic small talk into the end to be polite. But feel good saying it doesn't feel like we're really going to be able to do business together at this time. You don't have to dig into exactly what that means, but what you're doing is preventing both of you from wasting future time in those neutral corners, 6 monthly cups of coffee that are never going anywhere. So for those who are a match, congratulations. Now you've quite possibly ruled out half of the people that you've met with. That's okay. Better to rule them out than to waste time with them. But how do we go to step 2, getting to know you? I find it most beneficial for step 2 to happen even over multiple meetings, but at your office and at their office, at their place of work. The concept of the third place, meeting out for coffee, having general conversations in a nice cafe, has its merit, and it can be nice to get out of the office sometimes. But when you're building a relationship of understanding your firm and how you practice, and understanding their business and how they practice, there's no better place to learn that than at your place of business. And obviously that's not going to apply for every single family lawyer out there, but it's a good question to ask yourself. Why are we meeting not in our place of work? What you're looking to do in step 2 is to go into some depth, getting to know each other. You've, in that first meeting, asked some of those questions. Do they work with the kind of clients that you want to work with? Commercially, are they positioned in the same part of the market? Are they actually able to make a referral to me, or do they come too far down in the process? If the mortgage broker only ever deals with people who are already separated and legally divorced, they can't help give you clients who need that service. They're only dealing with people who have that service. This is the getting to know you through that process. The key question that you need to ask, that neutral corners relationships fail to do, is where in their process can they give a referral? Now, this is a key question to ask at step 2, which is often the second, the third meeting. And if they're looking for referrals back from you, which, as we will see, will sometimes be the case, but is not always the case, you need to be answering this question for you to them. But where in their process? I use the word strategic a lot when I talk about strategic referral channels, strategic referral partners. The distinction is this. A normal referral partner is somebody who is reactive. If they're sat down at the pub or they're sat in a client meeting and the client says, I need a family lawyer, who do you know? They go, you need to chat to Jenny. I'll give you her details, or just Google her. That's nice, it's helpful, it's very difficult to predict and manage, and it's nowhere near as valuable for your career and your firm as proactive, strategic referral partners. These are the people who go out of their way to give you a referral. They're the person down at the pub who says, Mike, you look unhappy, leave your wife, Jenny will help you do it. Okay, maybe that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but they have in their process with their clients this step where they test whether or not a referral to you is going to be possible, is going to be helpful. So if you think of an accountant is well placed when they're doing the income tax returns for their clients to ask questions like, have there been any changes to your habitation arrangements this year? Have there been any changes to private health insurance, to some of the offsets that work for couples, de facto or married, that would not work if that relationship is no longer the case? That's not an awkward question. It's not an accountant saying, are you planning on getting divorced? In the course of their work, they can add a step that finds out whether there is a potential referral opportunity. And then from there, if their client says, actually, we did separate or we're going through separation, won't affect this year's tax returns, but tell me more, does that affect next year's taxes? Then the accountant, this example is placed to ask them if they have somebody helping them with that. Do you have somebody who's helping you with that? I know a fantastic family lawyer. I'm happy to make an introduction to you if that would help. We'll talk a little more further on about the specifics of how that process can work really well for family lawyers. But can you see the difference between those people who are proactively asking questions and fitting you into their existing workflow process versus the reactive ones who are just waiting to be asked? That's what you're looking to do. And that's where it can feel confrontational compared to neutral corners where we pat each other on the back and say, let's do some business together. I've got heaps of clients I can send you. This is now sitting down in somebody's office and saying, tell me where in your process you would refer me. Tell me where in your process you would ask your clients the question that would uncover whether they have a family law need. And this is one of the beauties, if you're a broader firm that does wills, estate planning, for example, is that that can sometimes be an easier question, or it's often more relevant. More people need their wills updated than there are people who are separating. And so it becomes easier to ask that question and to uncover that need to start building a relationship with clients who may eventually separate and need your services in that regard as well. The final key point about step 2, getting to know you, is really sharing not just what makes you special, but the things that aren't necessarily perfect about your firm. The analogy I like to use in our training on this front is if I was going to refer you to a car dealer, let's say you moved to Brisbane where I've got relationships, you needed to buy a car. You said, Jacob, do you know a great car dealer? And I said, yes, you need to go and chat to Dave at Dave's Dodgy Motors out on Sandgate Road. But be aware of 3 key things. He wears suits that will melt your eyeballs with just how bad and colourful they are. Toupee, worst you've ever seen. And make sure you stand upwind of him because his breath will just peel paint off the roof of a car. And you go out there and it's exactly what I've described. But I say he's all of those things, but he will do you a great deal on a reliable car. So you go out there, terrible suit, terrible toupee, terrible breath, but I've warned you of all of those things. And so you look past them and buy a car from him. If I hadn't given you that information, maybe I didn't even know that about Dave because we'd only met online. If I said, hey, go and chat to Dave, he'll do you a great deal on a reliable car. And you go out there and there's the pinstripe bright yellow suit and the offense to the senses all over, and you can see the toupee flapping and you're thinking, there's no way this guy's going to help me buy a car. Now that's an extreme example I use for somewhat comedic effect. But think about your firm. It's not perfect. When I build strategic referral relationships, for example, a key thing I share is that it can usually take me up to 4 days to reply to an email. Now, that's not ideal customer service. It's a reality. It's a reality of my business model. It's a reality of the fact that most of my time when working is spent in clients, working with clients on their business. I'm not sat at my inbox all day. And after 6, 8, 10, 12 hours of helping female-led law firms to transform their operations, I don't necessarily sit down and go through the 20, 30, 40 emails I got that day. Now, if you refer somebody to me, and they don't hear from me for 2 days, they may start thinking, oh, that Jacob doesn't really care, or he's not as good as I was told. But if you say, hey, Jacob, he's fantastic, it'll take him a week to reply to your emails, okay, but that's because he's so in demand and he's so popular. Then if I'm delayed, the client understands that. So what are the things about your law firm, the expectations you might want a referral source to set that aren't necessarily perfect? And again, if you're looking to give referrals to this individual in exchange, or maybe you're just looking for someone to refer to, that's the question to ask them. And it's not something that comes up in a traditional neutral corners conversation where everybody just wants to be perfect. If people won't go there, if people won't bring you into their office, if they won't talk about their processes and where you fit, if they won't tell you some of their imperfections, then they're probably not going to go to the next step in the relationship and really go to depth, be vulnerable. And that may mean at this step, they become a no. And after 2, 3 meetings, you can rule them out. You've had more of your 64 cups of coffee. You're closer to finding those ideal referral sources. This person just isn't one of them yet.